He was trying to provoke thought. But even if you just took his words at face value or his attitude toward those he debated, he was a very positive, very helpful person who acknowledged when someone made a point or that he really didn't have all the answers. His crime was that he felt children should be raised by a mother who is not stressed out working a job as well as cleaning the house and raising the kids. Personally, I think the solution to all of this, because clearly raising your children yourself is the best thing. I think the solution is to get creative. A woman who's talented and gifted and has many things to offer and wants to do so should be able to have children and should be able to exit the workforce and then re-enter. I think we've reached a point with all of the tools we've got with technology where we could actually achieve that. And so that's another thing. I feel like the national discourse has been deliberately kept simplistic. We're still saying you have to sacrifice A to get B. And I sit there watching it, and I think there are more voices than we're hearing. Voices of reason, people who actually are smarter than the ones we're hearing incessantly on the TV and on the internet. And we've seen that independent voices have risen up in the last 10 years. Much to the consternation of the elite media, who constantly are trying to push the idea that these people are unstable. As President Obama famously said when he was campaigning in 2008, middle America is full of Bible nuts and gun nuts. That was a big turning point in itself. I believed it for years. Some of you know I was raised in a religious community. It was idealistic. I say we, I was a child. We were idealistic. It was very intensive, and I think the biggest harm that happened to us was it was just too intense. We were in the church, in the chapel, every day. So that's just overkill. It's like having an obsession with exercise or something. Our parents were just, everything was, let's go pray, let's decree, let's do these frantic exhortations to God. But it was not just Christian, but it embraced Christianity. And yet I came out of even before college, I didn't really have a very positive view of Christians. Why is that? What do you think? Media, not just reporters and journalism, but movies, books, television. Do you guys remember how Christian fundamentalists looked when they were trying to put warning labels on lyrics and, talk about the corruption of our youth? Anybody who said, video games or horror or violence on film had an effect were shouted down. And they were, here, look at this study. This study shows that, the majority of people are not affected. I finally figured out what this whole violence thing is, and I talked about it at the time of those 3 shootings in a row. All it takes is one person in 100,000 who is affected by watching constant violence be scripted out. And even remember those snuff films, remember Faces of Death in the 80s? That probably wasn't even as bad as the scripted stuff, because the scripted stuff lulls us into a complacency that this is funny, that it's a regular occurrence, that it's cool. And so I don't buy any of that. I absolutely believe that if you have violence normalized on your screen and on your screens from, whether you walked through the living room when your parents were watching The Shining or The Exorcist, or I didn't even think those were that scary, but you know what I'm saying? Like there are people dying in scripted films like every few seconds on an average family's television. You don't think that would make someone desensitized? Yeah, so the common theme of all of these people, that's the overarching theme that's more important than anything else, is that they're homicidal. Yes, they'll go there. like I mentioned, the 1927 dynamiting of the Bath Township School in Michigan. The guy was a member of the school board. He was angry about something. He had a strange past where his stepmother had died under mysterious circumstances. He had mother issues. He had a sign outside his farm that said, "Criminals are not born, they're made." Basically saying what? You guys made me do this? You guys made me do this? What he did was horrific. It was the largest fatal event until Vegas in 2017. Almost 100 years. And nobody knows about it. Uh-oh. I just got my lens smudged. Okay, sorry. But real quick, he wired the whole school with dynamite. He was a tinkerer, he liked to tinker and he liked gadgets and all that. He was homicidal. He killed his wife before he went over to the school, and so many children and teachers died. Now, I'm trying to give you guys the results of my whole deep dive, but, is it an American problem? Hell no. In Minsk, Soviet Union, in, I think, 1950, yes, because I did this as a documentary, and it's burned into my brain. In 1950, there was a teacher who had a jilted lover, and he blew up the school. Her name was Natalia, and, it traumatized the town, and the records were sealed until very recently. So this is Moldova, not Minsk. It was in Moldova. That's right. I think Minsk is like Belarus, right? Okay. There have been mass casualty events in Morocco of British tourists, in Britain, in Germany. If you